Can you hear me okay? Is this on? A little bit about GTP. I play on words here a little bit. Like I mentioned, I'm not an HR person, but I am a people person. And so I put my belief where my words were. And GTP stands for Growth Through People. I absolutely believe we have unlimited potential in our workforces. Unlimited talent, unlimited potential. However, as you're going to find throughout this presentation, it's the leader's responsibility to tap it. It's the leader's responsibility to be able to pull that potential forth in a unified, focused, deliberate manner. Otherwise, people are stagnant and people are sort of drifting a little bit. So they've got tremendous potential. But if we leave it up to the individuals to find their full potential, they can only go so far if the leaders haven't set the tone, if leaders haven't set the direction. Bringing meaning into Monday is the process I've coined to basically capture what I'm going to be sharing today. It's a way to sort of tell a message in 4 words. The fact that absolutely this is about creating a meaningful, vibrant, healthy, energized work culture. That's what the word meaning implies. What you're going to see momentarily is the best way to do that is focusing on the performance of the institution. To let you know where I'm going with this presentation before I get there, here's just 4 different steps we're going to go through today. 1, 2, 3, 4, very logical. All of you in this room wear a couple different hats. All of you wear a couple different hats. You might represent one of these sectors that are shown on this slide, and you might have a mission on that sector of bringing quality services and programs and capabilities to the communities, whether you're for-profit or non. I think you all share the fact your calling, your mission as an organization is to bring high-quality programs and services to the community, correct? In a financially sustainable way, correct? That's not a capitalist for-business mission. That's a mission of all of these sectors. They should all be committed to how are we consistently improving the value and the services and the programs and the products that we offer our constituents in a financially healthy, sustainable manner. So that's one hat I hope you all wear. So the second hat I want you to wear is, not only will this help advance my mission to our constituents, but it could also be applied to my team, to my department, to my organization. And so as you're listening to me, listen with those 2 hats is, hey, this could help take our mission forward, and this could also help make the productivity and effectiveness of our team or department better. I'll spend a few more slides on this, so I'm not going to cover it now, other than to say bringing meaning into Monday, as I've alluded to, will simultaneously affect people and simultaneously affect performance. I challenge you. I ask you to challenge me on that by the end of this 90 minutes. But that's the intent of what I'm trying to show here. When we convert to the how, I'm going to introduce some dials, universal dials that are present in every organization in this room. The point is every leader is responsible for these 4 dials. You might not have known it, and you'll learn more about it momentarily, but you as leaders are responsible for these dials. And oh, by the way, some of you might be leaders, but you don't have anybody reporting to you. I hope there's some people in the room that are that way, that I'm here, but I don't have people reporting to me. But I'm still a leader because I think I can still influence our company, my department, my team. And so I can take some of what I learn here and I can maybe influence others to basically learn and apply some of this stuff. So when I say leaders, I don't want you to think you have to have people reporting to you to basically move forward with this. Leaders help influence and lead and invoke improvement and change. And lastly, where I'll lead you to, and the purpose of this 4-quadrant slide was to see that I'm taking you to a spot where you can then begin to apply these first 3 quadrants in a very practical team-based manner, in a 100-day team-based manner. You can begin to learn and apply and replicate these principles immediately into your situation as you're going to learn in a very affordable, practical way. So I'm not trying to get you to fully understand it, because the only way you'll fully appreciate and understand what I'll leave with you today is right here, by applying it. What word on that left-hand column makes sense to you? What 1 or 2 words? You don't have to share them. I'm not going to ask you to share them, but I want you to remember them. I want you to say that if I can learn something about improving the creativity of my workforce, this is 90 minutes well spent. If I can learn something about improving the health and energy of my workforce, this is 90 minutes well spent. But I want you to choose a word or 2 from that left-hand column. Simultaneously, I want you to choose a word or 2 from the right-hand column, the performance column. Because many of you as leaders need to answer both of those when you approach at the coffee pot. There's some people that want to hear you say, I learned something that can affect the morale and creativity of our workforce. And the person says, great boss, but how's it going to change our performance? How's it going to improve our results? You as a leader need to be able to turn to that same person and answer that question. What I'm going to focus on is the role leaders play in making that happen. Because leadership sets the tone for those individual employees. Leadership sets the tone for that environment. And you could ask the employees all you want to learn these individualized skills. But if leaders aren't doing their job, if they're not setting the tone for their team, department, or organization, we've got a problem. Every leader, when they show up at work, nonprofit, civic, for-profit, faith-based, they should be saying, how am I tapping the diverse talent of my people to deliver better value for who we serve? Whether it's inside coworkers or whether it's outside clients, is they should have a consummate focus. My role of leadership equates to my ability to generate value. To be able to generate value in today's complex world, it's not just a matter of rallying up a bunch of individual skill sets and hoping that we got the right mix of people in the room to basically pull off a project. It's not enough to just rally individuals. It's more important to get them all on the same page. And that's a critical role of leadership, is the ability to mobilize and get people on common tasks, common direction. If they can't do it, the first one doesn't work, because there's no way in today's complex world of generating value that you can do it with a bunch of individual mixture of behaviors. You can only get so far with that. You need to get everybody on that same page, pulling the bus in a common direction. This is the centerpiece of what this is about, is the ability of bringing meaning into Monday is about generating value and building unity. Period. I'm going to explain more about how that happens. My background has been on the right side of that chart, the performance side of that chart. I'm a newcomer in the last 5 or 6 years to this other side, the people side. I really believed what I was doing from a performance perspective would influence people and help make them better. But I never necessarily had data or facts to prove it, because I wasn't in HR, I'm not a health professional, or so on. Well, what I hope to show with this graphic is both sides of this equation, because I think leaders need to be in a position where they're driving the performance of their organization. There's no fooling. I want to work with somebody who's committed to making us better. That's what I want to work with. But I also want to work with somebody who makes me better and basically values me as the people person. Okay, so that's the role of leadership. This was a new quote to me after I left Dow Corning a number of years ago. I stumbled on this quote a few years after I had made my own personal quest in this direction, and I was stunned. Go ahead and read that. We tend to think happy employees are productive employees. We even see books written about that. And don't get me wrong, I don't want anybody to walk out here going, this guy's talking about unhappy employees. No, but happy employees is not enough. You want engaged employees. You want people that feel connected to what you're trying to do in your organizations. And you might not see the words in there, but these words right here, workers connect to the company emotionally. That's unity. That's unity. The way people connect emotionally is through the relationships they have with others. And so although they don't say the word unity here, I want you to see that this quote, this study that came after some of this stuff was put in place, is saying workers want to have that kind of sense of connection with both their task and each other. That's what they want, unity. And then clearly it talks about the concept of value. Here's an HR study, worldwide study, done to say the second thing leaders or individuals want is they want to know how they contribute or add value. It's a good old fundamental basis is we don't have a bunch of lemmings in our workplaces. We have people that want a sense of contribution and connection in how they're contributing. And it's up to us as leaders to make that happen. So again, unity is here, values here, and there's those two words again. When I stumbled on this, that was my first realization that maybe I'm heading in a direction that's a little bit foreign to me. I'm used to talking performance over here and talking about service and profitability. Boy, this is opening my eyes up to a side of this equation that I never knew. I was on, but I never knew. Well, this next study actually was even more profound. According to a workplace study done by the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, a government study that was sponsored, this study said, yes, it is important to have health promotion and care management and nutritional plans and exercise facilities. It is important to have that in your company, to have a healthy organization. But don't lose sight of the role culture plays. And I highlight big C culture, which you're going to see in a minute. Don't underestimate the role culture plays in reinforcing what you're trying to do from a care and a health promotion perspective. Culture, okay. You guys probably know what that means. Those of you especially who've dealt with any type of wellness stuff, you've known we've done a lot of things that have culturally instituted healthy behaviors in our organizations. We've revised our health insurance policies. We've got benefits and incentives for that. We've done fitness and nutrition and biometrics and health risk assessments. We have done a lot. We have done a lot, and we've culturally wrapped those into our organization to surround the individual, correct? Correct, for those of you who have done it? Absolutely. If we expect this individual to adopt healthy behaviors and healthy eating styles, We better offer it in the cafeterias. We better put healthy choices in the vending machines. We better put walking trails around our facilities if so possible. We need to do that kind of stuff. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And those are required cultural support. But the point I'm making here is that's the little c. That's the little c of cultural support, because that's not what this NIOSH report focused on. They focused on the big C culture, which were these. Take a minute. The first one from this study, big C, individual contributions to achieving organizational goals / success. That's the first thing it said. If you want a healthy big C culture, you've got to help people understand how they contribute to the goals of the organization. But even more profound, well, I should say more equally profound, is read this. Leaders, I love the term, leaders must provide structures that support cooperation. The reason we call this workshop Developing Healthy Organizations. We threw you a fast one. We threw you a fast one away because a lot of people think healthy organizations is one side of the coin. It's this stuff. So a lot of us think, well, when I hear the term healthy organization, this is the stuff they think. The curve we threw you is there's another side to the coin, which is this stuff. The big C stuff, the other side of that coin. That's what this initiative, Bringing Meaning into Monday, is helping to address, is to augment a stronger culture as evidenced by the leaders within it. Now, I introduced the third word to this, and again, you see in that one pager that Jeff handed out with you, is this word balance, intrinsic motivation. We need a greater sense of balance in our workforce. We just don't need skills. We need this greater sense of balance. And here's a study that was done, again, very late in the game, but they're basically stating what I hope all of you would somewhat say is, you know, although I want to be paid well, I want to be paid fairly, there's more to my job than just what I make. Would you agree with that? Show of hands if you'd agree with that. Well, I don't believe you. Okay? I don't believe you. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you take a little test. Okay? And you're going to prove to me and you're going to prove to yourself just how significant this is. I want you to take a minute. There's 6 questions here, very easy questions, and you can answer all of them on a scale of 1 to 5 as far as the importance of that topic to you. You can answer them all as a 5. Feel free. You could have 5s across this whole sheet and be done. Or you could answer them 1 and 2s and 3s, but fundamentally, how important is compensation to you? To me, it's a 4, it's a 5, it's a 3. I don't know, but it's all different to us. To some people, they could care less what they get paid. And they're a 1. Rate it that way. And then when you look at the next one, relationship quality, sense of camaraderie, what would you put as that? Is that a 1? You don't care about the people around you? Or is it a 5? I really care about the people around me. But just go through these 6 questions and come up with your own tabulation and total your 2 columns. Total your left-hand column, the odd numbers, and total your right-hand column. And I'll tell you right now, you can't be over 15 in those boxes. Okay, there's no way you should be over 15 in those boxes. All right, just take a minute and do that. Now I introduce this teeter-totter, which this recent book is based upon. It's about 20 pages are based upon this need for balance. And what those questions are actually showing, here's where the trick comes in, is here's the odd questions, your intrinsic motivators, and here's the even questions, your intrinsic motivators. Your sense of purpose, which is more of a spiritual health, not a religious health. The spiritual health is about your sense of purpose, your sense of service to others beyond yourself. That's really the definition of spiritual health. Emotional health, your sense of resiliency, relationship quality, social. These are intrinsic motivators that you all have said were higher. Well, a couple people didn't, but that's okay. We all go through different stages, okay? But the majority of this room has said this is higher, right? You did it. We didn't need a study to do it. In the last 2.5 minutes, you did it. You said this is more important. The trick question is, if this is the more important side of what motivates us, where do our organizations focus to motivate us? Do they focus on that side? Or do they focus on this side? Right here. Would you agree? Who would agree with that? That's the trick of this little 6-question survey. Is we just all we didn't need that Mercer study of 2011 that was hundreds of thousands of dollars to say what we already could have said in 6 questions. That side's important to us. Then why in the heck are we spending all our time on this side? What can we do to add weight on the other side? Everybody on a teeter-totter? If you've been on a teeter-totter, it's no fun if you're the only one on it. Right? If all the weight is on one side of the teeter-totter, you're not having a great deal of fun in life. And your work life is not very fun. This is not, this other side, this focus on this other side is not excluding this. I don't want anybody to hear this guy's preaching about low compensation or lack of promotion. Come on, guys. I mean, this is very important to all of us. All I'm saying is it's out of balance. That's all I'm trying to imply. It's out of balance, and you've all concluded the fact that we need to spend more time here. And what I wanted you to see with this chart is right here. It's nothing different than what I just shared. If you can create an environment where people are pulling in a common direction, they're pulling the rope in a common direction together, cooperatively, respectfully, honoring the diverse contribution of other people. If you can create that kind of unified environment, you are adding significant intrinsic weight to your workforce. Likewise, if you can create an environment focusing on service, focusing on value, focusing on how am I constantly improving what I contribute to the people around me, inside or outside the organization. And more importantly, the respect that I can't do it alone. This is very complex. So I need to be able to work effectively with my peers and my colleagues and people outside of my organization. I need to get over myself. I need to get over my own little myopic self, and I need to basically open myself up to work more creatively with others to be able to deliver the kind of value that this competitive world, from the Thomas Friedman quote said, requires. If you're not there with me now, you really won't care about these lower two quadrants, because now we're going to move into how. Okay? So it's very important that we're sort of on that same page of these are really important characteristics, but now we move into reality, folks. Remember how I said I don't want to leave you at the why and the what? I want to bring you into the how, because this is what I think is happening in our organizations today, or the situation you're all faced with. I love pictures, and I especially love pictures that say 1,000 words the first time you see them. Without describing this picture, who can relate with it? Yeah, yeah, I can relate with this. This is me, this is us, this could be a team, this could be a department, this could be an entire organization or an individual. The point is, they got a lot of demands. They got a lot expected of them in today's world, and we keep lumping more and more on them, don't we? Okay, more and more on them. Is this healthy? Any of you in the health and wellness profession, all you guys from the Y? Is this kind of an environment, a work environment, healthy? Are people going to go home at night and get on the elliptical machine? Are they going to go home at night and eat well? We're sending back a lot of broken individuals back into our communities. They're not volunteering. They're not necessarily coaching their kids' soccer programs. They're exhausted. They can barely make it till 7 o'clock at night, okay, before they have to crash. All right? This is what this kind of environment is responsible for. And we have to change that. And yes, some people in the past have said, well, you know what we need is we need a vision. If we could set a vision and a mission and that North Star and paint the picture of what we're all about, absolutely. How many of you have established missions and purpose statements in your organization? Great. I would hope you have. If you haven't, back to the drawing board. I mean, that's a very important feature. Unfortunately, though, what we've done is we've called it a visioning statement. Many of you have concluded the visioning process by coming up with a statement. What the visioning process needs to yield is this. It needs to close this gap between where you're trying to go futuristically and how do I make my decisions on a day-by-day basis. That's a vision-led organization, is one that can say, we know where we're going, but we know how to close the gap so we're making decisions that are consistent with where we're trying to get. Make sense? And I call that more of a visioning process, is you got to know where you're going, absolutely, but you got to basically close this gap here. And this is where I'm going to introduce those 4 dials I just mentioned. And I'll explain each one here momentarily, but I first want to explain the little roadmap. There are these 4 dials, I'll explain them, but right here in the middle, you see what just presented itself? This little roadmap starts to present itself. If you've done some of these dials that I'll explain, if you put these in place, if you as a leader turn these dials, click, 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 not all at once, not all together, but choose one, fix your work processes, establish your brand, set a strategic clarity, focus on what your image is all about. Whatever you choose is your choice. The point is, turn it, click, 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 because the more you do it, the more this map or this road presents itself. You with me so far? If you had this picture as it's described here, if you were faced with this as an individual or as a leader, what would you do with these 3 work items over here, these 4 work items? Right now, just based on this picture, what would you recommend should be done with these items? Anybody, just blurt it out. Delegate them? Delegate them? Is that what you do? Prioritize them or eliminate them? Why would you even work on them? I'm not going to delegate that stuff to somebody. Why? We shouldn't even be doing that stuff. Even if we were doing that stuff for the last 15 years, we shouldn't be doing that stuff, or we should turn it over to somebody who should. Why? It's because that stuff is not on the roadmap of where we're trying to get. So why are we doing it? We have to eliminate things. Matter of fact, one of the things, I use this metaphor in this morning session, I like these kind of word pictures. Imagine yourself, today we're all like a balloon. We're all like a fully enlarged, expanded balloon. We can't blow any more air into our balloons. Because if we blow more air into us, what happens? We snap, okay? We snap because we're stressed. Our balloons are like stretched. But as leaders, we got to get more work out of our people. We got to pour more air into our people, right? I'm challenging you to say adding value sometimes is eliminating work you shouldn't be doing anymore. That's what adding value is also. It's many times, it's eliminating work you should no longer be doing, or at least you shouldn't be doing it the way you used to do it. Because that then reduces the air and pressure in your balloon, correct? It gets stale air, obsolete work out of your balloon. Which what can you do? You can blow value-added air into your balloon. But as a leader, I think it's a lazy leader that basically just demands and demands and demands more of their people. It's lazy. This is tough leadership, is determining what do we eliminate, what do we remove, what do we outsource, how do we clean our slate? Because this work is no longer consistent here. You with this picture? Likewise, if you have this task right here, right in the middle, what should you do with that task? All engines forward, right? It's 100% online. It's like, boy, it's real clear. But you never knew this when you were back here. You see the point? You never knew it. How do you make trade-off decisions? How does Joe go or Mary go or Bill go? We don't know what choices to make if we haven't done our diligence as leaders, if we haven't put these dials in place effectively and clearly. Strategic clarity is not a mission statement. Strategic clarity is not a 17-page document that took 6 months to develop sitting on your shelf. Okay, that's not strategic clarity. This is strategic clarity, whereby you broke down where you're trying to get your mission into what's critical to get there, what goals do we need to do to pursue it, and what actions are we putting in place in a time-driven, accountable way. That's strategic clarity. I'll say it again real fast. It's not just a vision. It's having what's critical to succeed or critical success to get there. It's establishing goals tied to those critical success factors, and it's establishing actions associated with those goals. That's what strategic clarity is people know what is expected of them from here down to here. Again, tough role of leaders, but that's what leaders need to do, is if you're not connecting those dots, who's going to connect them? That's the role of leadership, is to connect those dots. That's what strategic clarity looks like, not just having a great statement of what you think you're going to become 5 years from now. Image and values. Every department, whether you're inside an organization or dealing with the outside market, you should be concerned about how you're portrayed, the image you convey to others, the values you represent. Do you want to portray a responsive type personality, a responsive type image? Do you want to portray a collaborative type image or values? Do you want to portray integrity to your market and to your coworkers? Those are words you got to choose. I don't choose them for you, but if you haven't chosen them, if you haven't defined what are the core values or image characteristics, whatever words you want to use, what are the 4 or 5 or 6 characteristics that represent what we want to be? We want to be cooperative. We want to be responsive. We want to have integrity. We want to be creative. If you plan those, then that's what you want to portray. Well, you better make sure the people you hire, train, and build have those same characteristics. You see the point? Work processes. This is the easiest one of the bunch. Is accounts payable, supply chain processes, quality processes. We got a bunch of work processes that we all do. Wellness, health risk assessments, that's a process, how you do them. Do you want people that come into the YMCA, do you want all the people, I should ask this to Nate, to basically have a different approach to how they do a health risk assessment on the members? No, you'd have chaos. If you left it up to these 4-year skilled kinesiology experts to sort of wing it on how they do a health risk assessment to your members, you're not going to last very long, are you? That's a process. You better make sure everybody's doing the process the same way, so you have a consistency to how that process should be done. Make sense? All right? And then the last one, customer differentiation. This is where I spent a lot of my time. My second book, actually my first book, which is the bigger one up there, is all focused on this, is how to basically understand, you don't all serve a mass of customers. Many of us serve different types of customers, different segments of customers. You know, and I'll show an example here later. You know, in the healthcare arena, palliative care, end-of-life care, The kind of services you offer to people that are in their end-of-life care are different than people that are going through knee reconstruction. You with me? Okay, so it's like, all right, well, we better make sure we understand what services and service levels we're going to give to the people at end of life in hospice versus those that are coming in for 30-day rehab. That's what I mean by customer differentiation and segmentation, is you understand you're dealing with different segments of customers and how well are you proactively aligned to serve them. So notice, I'm not recommending any of these 4 dials. All I'm saying is, if you're not consciously turning one or multiple of these every day as a leader, chances are you're running in place. You're running in place. You're not generating the kind of value that you're expected to generate. Now, with that said, that same thing, I already mentioned image and values, those characteristics like innovation, integrity, teamwork, and so on. You could take that, and what that does is that unifies a bunch of diverse people. You could have had 75 employees. If I walked into your organization right now, you could have 75 employees standing in front of me. If I asked them, what are the important values or characteristics that you want to reflect to your market and to your coworkers? I'd have 75 different interpretations of what those are. That's not healthy. What I'd like to be able to do is I go into your organization, those 75 people line up and they yell out cooperation, responsiveness, integrity, teamwork. You get me? You've got 75 different eclectic viewpoints on the same page. And then you build skills and you build training programs and you hire people, you fire people based on those values that don't live up or respond to those. That's image. That's one dial you all have the ability to turn. And you don't have to be the CEO to turn it. Nate, as you're going to see in a minute, does it for his wellness department. Okay, he can establish them there. Okay, the idea is to eventually get them to the top where it's unified across all, but don't wait. People, don't wait. So that's an example of how you can move this way. Now, I could stop the presentation here, and I could basically say, that's it. I'll bet you some of you people are doing this, right? I hope I'm speaking to people that have understood. You might not have articulated them my way, but you're working on these dials. They're not new. I hope you're working on some or multiple of them, right? They're not new. And I hope you're actually experiencing the fact of how it can basically create, bringing those cats together, bringing those diverse views to a common page. I hope you're experiencing some of that too, true? And if you are, thank you for being here, and I hope I validated the good work you're doing, period. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of you are here, and a lot of people I've spoken with, they're struggling with, yeah, I hear you, but I don't know how. How can I begin to apply some of these principles? How can I begin to apply them? And that's what I mentioned earlier. We offer this 100-day process, a 100-day process that we offer. In this case, what it does is in one day, you can bring an issue, regardless of which issue it is, whether it's a values issue, a work process, something with your strategy or whatever. We don't care about the content. You bring in a real-life example of something you're working on. We help you get everybody on the same page, get them focused, get them accountable to certain time-driven metrics in 100 days. By no means, after one day of together with us, do you achieve everything in the next 100 days. But you get started, hence the words here. You get started. You get moving in a direction. They take the ball and run with it. They don't need to keep coming back to us. We teach them right here. We teach them to fish. Why? Because they're bringing in their own initiative. We're teaching them as leaders to better lead, to how to mobilize and get people accountable. And they will go on from there. Some of the examples will show we're client-specific, where I've done these practices with specific clients. But what we're here to talk about today is this latter one, community-based. Because we cannot solve today's problems if we just have a few consultants like me working with a few high-priced clients, okay, that can afford some. No, we're not going to solve today's problems. Remember, 85% of our market is in small to medium-sized businesses. They can't afford somebody like me to come in one-on-one client-specific. But they can afford to say, is there a way that we can send a team through this process? Is there a way that I can send one of my departments through this process? Is there a way I can send one of my initiatives through this process? Yes, there is. We call it a community-based approach. And it looks something like this. We can take that one-day immersion and we can have different teams from different organizations coming into that one day. Each one of these teams is focused on their own dial, their own priority, their own issue, their own content. We don't really care so much as long as it's relative to one of those 4 dials, which what's not? A work process, image, strategy, segment differentiation. You pick one of those dials, but the point is we can have these active teams in the same room, They're all working on their own agenda at their own table, led by their team leaders. This is the key point of where I'm leading you to. Is they're not being facilitated by me or Jeff or somebody else. They're actually being facilitated by their team leader, who should be facilitating them, right? That's who should be facilitating this. We just help get those people in place, and we help invoke a process that helps those team leaders, these people, these blue people. We just help lead them through how do you herd cats? How do you get people on the same common page? How do you build a degree of accountability and urgency in your team? We help them get there. Content's irrelevant to us. It doesn't matter what the subject content is. It's the process of how do you as a leader mobilize those people and get them on the same page, taking all that me attitude and bring it into some type of collective direction. Is that making sense? To be able to do that in this one-day immersion, we actually meet with the team leaders that will be assigned to this effort 2 weeks prior through a webinar. We have some pre-work for you and your team to do before they come in. Notice I say their team is going to come in, anywhere up to 8 people. Okay, is a good working number. But their team comes in because we don't want this to be a theoretical thing with the leader. We want that leader to work these issues through with their team, and we just help guide that. Okay, but the leader does it. So that's the first thing this leader does, is they get some pre-work assigned. The second thing this leader gets awareness to, and they might not realize they were signing up for this, but I'm telling you, here it is. They facilitate those 3 steps I just mentioned. They facilitate those 3 steps through their team during that day. Someone like me is in the room to help guide and answer questions and sort of shepherd the overall process, but the ball is in their court. These leaders come in, we teach them, we don't leave them hanging. We have a means of teaching and getting them safely doing this, but the point is they do it. They do it. So that's point number 2 they learn in this little bit of team leader session. The third point is the most profound point they learn, is the fact that you, Mr. Team Leader, and you're going to come in and you're going to facilitate your people, and by you're going to start at 8:30, and by 4:30 you're going to have a sense of accountability and focus. Cool. But the number one thing they learn is right here, is don't even start the process, Mr. Team Leader, if you're not committed to implementing those few actions that come out of it. Because this, folks, is where the learning occurs, is here. Not here. This is where you get on the same page. This is where you get some identity of focus. But where the learning occurs is here. It's the application, the implementation, the execution of what you concluded. And by the way, we don't conclude 17 pages of 112 items here. We help these teams, like that funnel showed, boil it down to maybe 3 or 4 areas to focus on and the actions thereof. Something palatable, something actionable, something measurable and doable in 100 days. Okay? And then we're not kidding ourselves right here, where we realize what these people are going to do is they're going to report back to you. We're going to develop champions. We're going to develop testimonies. We're going to develop results with this. But we're also going to develop the fact of it's repetitious. They're not going to achieve everything that they come out with here in 100 days. They might just get started in 100 days. We just want to get you started. We want to seed these principles into your organization, let you see the benefit of it and the ability of it. Then it sort of propagates upward. And let's prove these concepts before we take the risk of expanding them further in our organization, okay? And I believe wholeheartedly, once they're proven, once people start seeing, whoa, this is a different way to lead. This is a different way to drive performance with people being more motivated from it. I mean, come on, it's like, are you kidding me? That it begins to propagate itself naturally. Let me show you some examples real quick. Here's a local healthcare nurse rehab, nursing home, rehab, healthcare facility. The unique thing here is right here, 5 different facilities across the Eau Claire, Chippewa Valley area. They all had different views of what was strategically important to them. What we did is we brought 65 of their leaders, so all of these leaders, not just the facility managers. We brought 65 people into a common room, round tables, talking about common stuff. We concluded the fact that fundamentally this happened. Before lunchtime, we had those 65 people representing 5 different facilities, all going to their own drummer, on the same page, and all agreeing with those as the critical success factors for their mission to be achieved. Powerful stuff in a couple hours, okay, in a couple hours. Then we proceeded that same day to basically take those and say, okay, based on that, what are some of the priorities you guys should focus on? What are some of the areas that you believe collectively need to be improved upon? Again, couple hours, boom, they got it. And then the last step, remember that 3 steps I had in that funnel earlier? This is the third step. The third step then is taking what we just concluded and coming up with some actions. Some things that we can start doing in the next 100 days. That's how simple this is. Where are we trying to go? What are some of the areas to improve to get there? And what are some of the actions in place that potentially could get started in the next 100 days? Not rocket science. It's just good old 101 leadership. It's just that we need to help people get started with it because we're not learning this left-hand skill. To go on with this example, I mentioned about brand and values. In this particular case, they had 5 different facilities, not necessarily with a consistent representation of the market. So their consistency as far as their logo, their personality, what they're trying to do in the Chippewa Valley area was inconsistent. They basically got to a point of consistency and got into a common page. And again, same concept. It was a priority, and then they boiled that down and developed actions over 100 days and started implementing it. It's just putting shovels to the dirt, folks. That's all it is, putting shovels to the dirt. But that's another example of a dial. This could have been done without this. So these things are mutually exclusive. I'm just showing them collectively here as one. Likewise, areas of work process improvements. They identified some work process areas to focus on over and above what these came up with. That's okay. They put teams in place to make stuff happen. I think they improved significantly their IT skills or their use of IT technology, if I remember right. Here's an example of customer services or different segments of which you're trying to service. As I mentioned earlier, palliative care, which is end-of-life care, is different than wound care. What are the services and how can we do them most efficiently when we're dealing with end-of-life care? And what are the services and how can we do them more efficiently when we're dealing with people that are dealing with wound care? You see how that is different? And again, if you have 17 employees making those decisions every day, that's not very efficient. It's not very profitable. It's not very effective. So this is where you're getting people on the same page. And then here's the local home. Thanks to Nate, he already teed this up. Nate, he said about how he was able to get his arms around what he was trying to do in the wellness department. This is all what I'm going to show you is Nate's stuff. All we helped Nate do was get his arms around it. Here's a good one. This is the key thing, and Nate alluded to it later. He's got the nice shirt on showing the different colors of the YMCA logo. They changed from YMCA to Y. Many of us didn't realize that, but they nationally changed from YMCA to Y. And they came up, and here's what they say is important to that. The national Y in Chicago said youth development, healthy living, social responsibility, right? Okay, right, Nate? So that's the national Y. Great, it came out of Chicago. Nate had to bring that to Eau Claire and to his wellness department. He needed to help his people understand how are we making decisions to connect to these elements. Okay? It's not going to happen because Chicago blessed it from the mountaintop. Okay? It's not going to happen. He had to basically break it down and say, guys, this is what we need to do, and you'll see in a minute. This is the kind of stuff they focused on. Obesity camps, health seekers, commit to fit, this medical fit. It leads to a whole bunch of stuff that for us to live our brand in the wellness department, there's things we need to do. There's services we need to provide. Okay? Once again, should he have left that up to 32 employees? Could he have left that up to 32 employees is what I should say. I hope you'd say no. Okay? Because he couldn't. It's his responsibility to turn that dial. This is what it is, folks. These are the dials. All we're trying to say is, how do you get started on them? How do you get focused? How do you build energy behind it? How do you get the flywheel moving? Going forward, we do plan on being back in the Eau Claire area on September 11th, if indeed, because September 12th happened. So let me explain September 12th. What we're asking on the 12th is we'd like some teams to be nominated to go through this process, and the 12th is when it's going to start. Okay, the 12th is when we're going to have our first team-based, multi-team session in Eau Claire. The cost of something like that is $750 for a team. What you get for that little bit of money is team leader preparation, that 2 hours prior. You're getting 2 people to sit in a webinar and understand how to facilitate CATs, how to basically bring people to a common page. That's 2 hours up there, and how they're basically mobilizing their people. You're getting a full day immersion with us in the room, with your team leaders at their round tables, doing their work, isolated from the others. So they're working at their own table. There's no sharing amongst the tables. There's no sharing amongst these teams. They're just working on their own table, on their own issues. They're just following a common process that we help guide them through. Okay? So that's what you're getting is this one-day immersion from anywhere from 2 to 8 people being participants of it. Once again, I want to highlight, it's because in order to teach leaders these new skills, they can't learn it in a general classroom training. We're leaping over that and saying, no, we're not getting into general training. What you're learning in this session is you're doing it in this session. You're not learning it, you're doing it. And so it's applied learning, which is far more behavioral changing. And then the last thing you get post that session, remember that 100-day timeline? We're going to have 6 webinars or 6 at least virtual calls where those leaders from those teams, only the leaders, not the teams, are going to check in with us collectively. There's common things that all leaders have to face, both personally and structurally, that we can help guide them through. We can provide that support perspective to those leaders, but they're going to get 6 hours, 2 leaders, 6 hours of coaching on how to manage people through the cloud. You have to identify which project is active in your mind, what's a priority, what is something that's important to you, and it doesn't have to just be one team. Frankly, some of you could send multiple teams through this. Again, they're going to work separately, and do it all that. The progress is going to be monitored and adjusted 30 to 100 days. We will help those people understand that although they had the best intentions in that one-day immersion, in the first 30 days, they're going to probably discover some reality that things have to be adjusted. So we don't hold them accountable to what they said at the end of that immersion, but they definitely have an opportunity to refine them. But the point is, they do have a 100-day progress review with you, if you're the one who sponsors their team, with you. They let you know what progress they've made based on the project you put through this. Don't expect them to be done, but expect progress to be made. Likewise, what comes out of that, I already mentioned results. For the new words for you, for some people in here, maybe leading and lagging results. Many of us always look for lagging results. How did we change our cost? How did we improve our growth? What numbers did we do? How many more members do we have? Those are all lagging results. They're physical results that you can point to that are their lagging results. The leading stuff is, I can guarantee you won't get improved lagging results if you don't have everybody on the same page with a sense of accountability and focus. So that's what we're trying to build, is our results in those first 100 days is not totally improving your growth or your profitability in 100 days. But it's getting everybody on the same page with a sense of shared accountability of where they're trying to go and focus. That's a leading result. That if you don't have that kind of leading result occurring, you're not ever going to experience lagging results. You with me? Leading and lagging. Likewise, this whole focus, our intent is leadership effectiveness. I want to highlight here, our goal is not to just plop and run in Eau Claire one time with a training program. Our ultimate goal, our ultimate objective, we hope you as a community embrace this, is we'd like to get 1,000 leaders through this process in the next 1,000 days, which is 3 years. That's 500 teams representing different sectors, civic, nonprofit, faith-based, all forms of sectors. Our goal is those leaders, those little blue dots I had on those teams, is we want to get 1,000 leaders singing this song. We want to get 1,000 leaders in this community representing other sectors, all different, speaking with the same common language of what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a meaningful society, a meaningful community, and they're taking ownership for how they're doing it within their organization. They're taking ownership for where they're trying to move the community. That's what we're trying to instill in a 3-year period. Now, I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe this thing will die on a vine. As of today, I don't know. But the point is, that's what we're committed to do, is we want to work with this community. We want to seed these concepts into organizations, into leaders, and they take forward from there. And lastly on this is, clearly, if you're interested, if you're so inclined, please contact Jeff. There's his email. We need to know a couple weeks prior, or in a couple weeks, because why? We start the process not on September 12th. We start the process 2 weeks earlier when we deal with those team leaders coming to that webinar, or linking into that webinar. And if you guys think you want to be involved, have at it. Join us. I think you'll enjoy the process and you'll learn as we do it. So, all right? Thanks, people. We just went a couple minutes over. Yeah.